I think no other president lacks the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task.
That's right. If April 2nd was deemed Liberation Day, from this day forward, April 11th shall be known as Where the Hell is Your Appreciation Day?
We finally have someone in the White House saying enough is enough, and it happens to be the guy who authored The Art of the Deal. I'm going to peg my money on the guy authoring The Art of the Deal, and a thank you given to Elon Musk.
How about a thank you for the transparency that he and the Doge team have put out there? You can go onto the website right now. They've got a live tracker for Doge, and it shows dollar for dollar how much they have saved the American taxpayer. That is you, America. This is volunteer work being done by the world's richest man. And instead of getting a thank you, his employees are getting attacked. There's about 119,000 of them. Vehicles are being attacked. Dealerships are being torched. And he's being completely open and honest with all the work that they are doing. In fact, that entire team is a bunch of very wealthy people that could be, I don't know, sitting on an island they bought instead of trying to help the American economy, come back.
First of all, 60% of Americans would love it if Elon and the rest of his Doge team went island shopping tomorrow. And I know that because of a recent poll cited on Republicans' favorite network.
Meanwhile, a new Quinnipiac poll is revealing how Americans feel about Elon Musk's Doge cuts. This is really, really interesting. 60% say they don't approve of how the agency is dealing with federal workers.
But when it comes to Trump, I think the reason for the withholding of the thank you cards is because his masterful art of the deal tactics don't seem to be working.
President Xi Jinping on Friday urged the EU to join China in defending globalization and opposing unilateral acts of bullying. That was a clear swipe at renewed U.S. tariffs under President Donald Trump. The comments, Xi's first publicly since Trump's tariff move, are also a sign of how Beijing is looking to mend its straining relationship with the EU to weather the trade war with the U.S.
Yep, Trump went all bouncer at a nightclub with one of our biggest trading partners, telling China they couldn't come into our awesome party unless they paid an insane cover charge. And China was all, screw that, I'll just go kick it with the EU across the street. And the EU was happy to have him because the same bouncer has also been telling the EU that their house belongs to him, which is not good bouncer etiquette if you want people to come into your party. So what is happening here? If the brilliant negotiating strategy by king of the deal makers was to shore up American supremacy and isolate China by imposing ridiculously steep tariffs, then why did he also impose across-the-board tariffs on the rest of the world, especially our allies?
That was the whole idea, supposedly, behind this trade agreement, was to get everybody in Asia and us and it's like 12 countries against China, isolate them. But now I don't know if we have friends anymore.
Exactly. Trump pledged to make America first, and we are first in line. Problem is, there's no one behind us. Even if, by some miracle, these tariffs prove to be slightly beneficial for the United States, which numerous economists say they won't, there's a separate cost to being erratic with our trade policy, and that is the world doesn't trust you anymore.
Why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off the hooks.
Right, I forgot. The phones have been ringing off the hook. And remind me, who is it that's been incessantly calling?
What about the deals? We want to see deals. We want to see win after win after win. We want to see countries coming into the White House signing deals. When will that happen? And which countries?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to name the countries yet.
Got it. You're not on TV to provide insight or clarity during times of economic turmoil. More of a trust us kind of thing. But by imposing tariffs, pausing tariffs, not to mention flaunting the beautiful mind level equation that he definitely did not use to come up with these tariffs, Trump has diminished the reliability and credibility of the United States by creating the one thing that the economy hates more than
policies that were driving the economy into a ditch. Not just the stock market slide, but as you mentioned, the bond market, bringing higher interest rates, a lower dollar, warning signs that we could be seeing an economic meltdown. Trump was hearing from his allies on Wall Street, from CEOs, from foreign leaders. He was hearing from Republicans in Congress. As he said, people were getting a little bit yippy. That's why he did what he said he would never do. He changed the policies. But, George, very importantly, even with this reversal, President Trump has left in place massive new tariffs, an historically high tax increase, tariffs on China that are so high they're likely to bring trade between the two countries to a halt, and a 10% tax on imported goods from the rest of the world.
Yeah, and we saw China escalating again this morning. The big question now is, can there be a deal with China?
Well, Trump seems to be practically begging for negotiations, saying China wants a deal. He wants to hear from China. But, George, as of late last night, I was told by senior White House officials that the Chinese government has not reached out. There's been simply no response from China, no sign of negotiation. President Trump is calling President Xi his friend, but right now his friend is not picking up the phone.
Okay, John, thanks very much. Rebecca, let's talk a little bit more about what we saw in Mary's piece. You saw that small business owner say he needs predictability. This uncertainty is really going to weigh on the economy.
It's going to weigh on the economy. It is real-time weighing on the economy. I talked to a number of small businesses overnight. There's some relief because there is this pause, but it's not resolution yet. And for small businesses that rely on China, and many of them do, $440 billion worth of imports came from China to the United States last year. For those businesses, the clock is ticking. Every minute that goes by where they don't have an answer is another minute that could potentially amount to that business literally closing down. Farmers are waiting on this because the retaliation that's coming out of China can do things like restricting what American farmers export to China, not sending their crops. That has an impact, and we're also hearing it from big businesses, from Delta to Walmart, who are saying, we don't have certainty, we can't forecast the future because this is still such an uncertain situation.
Which means they may not invest.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you so much for that, Rebecca.